Yo, what's up, everybody? So, Alex has been out for a couple of days, and I'm sure a lot of you don't know how to fight this character yet.
Yo, what's up everyone? Hope you're all doing well. My name is Akarin. I am a professional fighting game player for several years now from Austria. And I am also here joined with Chris F, showing you some general strategies on how to beat Alex. Newest DLC that came out, one of the better, or like better designed DLCs in my opinion. And yeah, let's go over some general strategies and also what I would like to say are his biggest weaknesses. So Alex as a character by itself is extremely slow, which is very normal for grapplers in general, right? But it also gets to the point where you can even react to certain things that he does, as in like his dash-in being frame 22, and also having pretty slow reversals, so even on defense he isn't really the greatest. His level 1 is pretty fast with being frame 9, but the level 2 and level 3 of the versions of them are incredibly slow by itself, one of them being frame 13, and level 3 being frame 12. So one of the main things you're gonna have to look out for in this character, at least from my perspective, is going to be to try to counterplay him on defense and try to basically whittle him down in neutral as much as you can due to his general speed. At least my strategy against grapplers, due to me being a rushdown main, has always been to basically not give them what they want, which is to be all the way up close, but rather use my walk speed and abuse the speed in general in order to beat him with something, for example, like Kami's heavy kick, or just general poke buttons to keep him out and let him come to me over time.
And then also when you knock him down, right? You said he has slow supers, but he also has no meterless reversals either, right?
Yes, he doesn't really have anything. He basically just has a system mechanics of like, okay, I could drive reversal here, or maybe if you are lucky, you will get a command grab if they like walk back or anything. But that's like about it for his defensive options, really. He also doesn't have a low. So
yeah, exactly. So if you're playing like a fireball character, don't forget when you knock this guy down in mid, like when you knock him down in the corner, going for meaty fireball setups is really strong because even if he goes for his level 1 super, all level 1 supers in this game lose to fireball. So that's a really, really weak point of his defense. So if you're lucky enough to have a fireball character, that's always a good option to go for knockdown in the corner just to keep him locked down and to remove any invulnerable wake up options he has.
Absolutely. That's also one of my main critique points for this character, or just basically for any character that doesn't have an EXDP in general. It's very hard to get out of the corner. It's very hard to get out of the corner in this game already, especially even if you do have one. But if you don't have one, it's almost a thing of like it being impossible. So you have to make sure if you're playing against him that you try to force him to be on defense as much as you can. But it's the same for every character, right? But like for him in particular, it's really bad.
Yes, and he's also got slow walk speed, slow drive rush. So as long as you're taking your space, you're not like walking into him, like just like any other grappler, you should be kind of doing okay in the neutral, but you have to watch out for his big buttons. So let's talk about some other things you think we should look for in this matchup, dude.
Okay, let's talk about what, in my opinion, is just his general pressure, right? And also his like stance. So the most important thing about Alex that is like clearly a knowledge check is knowing what is he even doing in his stance and how can we counterplay it. What are like the things that you generally need to look for when he is in stance, and is stance super OP, or is it just a gimmick that you can abuse and punish and counter? So let's start with the first button on his stance, which is his stance light punch. This usually is a pretty safe move by itself and links into his heavy version, but this can be counterplayed, right? So situation for the character, if you just look at the numbers directly, is pretty bad. You are in front of your opponent. You're +3 as Alex right here, so I am able to just go for like a command grab mix, or I can go for something like a medium punch, right? So I can just go for medium punch right here, and then trade with Kami or like any character in particular, and just get a very, very big punish from it. This, however, can be avoided by using drive reversal. So if we have Alex right here, going for this, you have a pretty generous window of just drive reversing right here, and as you can see, you know it is true because it shows a punish counter. If you're trying to train this yourself and you see that you're doing it too slow, you'll see that you won't get the punish counter, but instead you'll just get something like this, right?
Yeah,
where he just gets pushed back, and that's about it. Another thing to mention right here is if he does it by itself, this does have a 1-frame gap, so you can actually either go through an EXDP or a super or anything. So as you can see right here, Kami is able to actually go for this. However, the Alex player does have counterplay to this, so I still advise just going for drive reversal, right? If he goes for the light punch right here, he can also go for other versions, not just a heavy punch. he can go for light kick, for example. So he'd be able to jump over this, and that's not going to end too well for you, right? You're going to take a huge chunk of damage, and yeah, I would just advise you can react to the heavy punch and then go for a drive reversal. Again, as I said, you have a pretty generous window. So if you got some drive rush to spare or some drive meter to spare, I would suggest that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not. There's also, you might be thinking maybe that's a lot of drive meter to get him off you, but remember, Alex is basically a grappler. He doesn't have fast walk speed, doesn't have fast drive rush, so just sending him basically full screen for 2 bars is actually really good for you, because now he has to start playing neutral all over again. That's not really what the Alex player wants to be doing.
Yeah, we basically just want him off of us at all times, right? Basically, what we talked about in the general game plan. The general game plan for the character is to what? Keep him away, get a life lead, basically run for a timeout if we have to, right? Like, it's a lame strategy, but it just works. In general, anything that grapplers want to do is be in your face, and they will just annihilate you if you let them. So keeping them away with things like drive reversal, it's just better. And also, for the most part, even if you are wrong here, the worst you're going to take is going to be a command grab. Right, which is, in terms of damage, not that bad. You'll take about 2,500 damage compared to taking potentially 6,000, even 7,000 if they do an optimal combo afterwards to call out a DP. Zangief is another example of that, or Marissa. High damage characters where drive reversal is just a much better option than ever going for an EXTP and risking that.
Also, like, eating that command grab from Alex, while it is scary, he's got some of the lower command grab damage in this game. Like, it's not nearly as high as someone like Zangief or even Manon, and then he gets no Oki after it. So even if you eat the command grab like 1 or 2 over the course of a set, it's not the worst thing for you either.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if we look at this command grab a bit more in detail, let's say I command grab somebody right here, we are only plus 15, which means even if we drive rush right here, people are able to counterplay us, right? They can either go for what I think is my personal favorite, just go for a backdash right here on wake up. So even if we drive rush and try to press a button, we won't actually be able to hit anything. Or we can just have Cammy or like any other character do something like a standing light kick or a crouching medium punch in order to stop us from getting in. Like that.
Yeah, there you go. But he's got some other moves in stance that are really strong. Specifically, his dive kick. It's not really a dive kick, it's more of a stomp. But let's take a look at this guy. I think this is a move that's driving a lot of newer players crazy.
So the stance kick, right? The stance kick has 3 different versions. You can angle it towards basically nothing, so like the neutral version right here. You can angle it backwards, or if you hit it, it's basically like pretty much where you started. And the forward version, which launches you forward, quite literally, right? One of the biggest problems I see new players make is they just try to anti-air it. They either try to anti-air it or go for a drive impact. Both of these options are very, very unreliable because he's able to actually like change the trajectory of it, right? So what is the actual best solution against it? In my opinion, I think the best thing you can do as any character would be to just try to either air-to-air it or use perfect parry / like a button that could be useful for it. So for Cammy's case, it would be a back medium punch. For example, for the other character that I play, a back heavy kick would be another solution that you can do. But pretty much almost any air button, or so like any anti-air button specifically, will do the trick, because the risk of getting hit is very minuscule for one. And also, if they go for something like, let's say, for example, he goes for the stance into the backwards kick right here, you won't just be exposed. You won't just be exposed and get hit immediately, right?
Yeah, so for all these moves, I think a really big thing to always think about is like your risk reward. It's like, yes, you could potentially DI it and get a ton of damage. You could potentially DP it, maybe link into level 3 and get the win. But generally speaking, you don't want to be taking that much risk against these kind of characters. So always sticking with a safer like anti-air button, where even if you whiff, nothing bad happens, is generally the better choice.
Yeah, so just to demonstrate this real quick on how easy it is to actually stop the character from doing this. So once you see the button right here, you can basically just go for a back medium punch and you're going to be completely fine. Right, and as for the air options, I would suggest anything that is fast. So usually it's going to be a light. It's not going to be anything else. I have tried using mediums and heavies here, and they're very unreliable. The frame down is very advantageous though. So if you somehow hard read it, right, you can just drive rush in and try to go for pressure. But overall, my take, back medium punch or any anti-air button is the way to actually win.
And then if you do get that anti-air, you're gonna get the force knockdown, which means you can continue your combo, right?
Right. You can basically finish rounds here if you are if you're either cracked in your character, or the character has a lot of options after the forced knockdown to get damage.
Yeah, and of course, that's going to depend on the character you play, so you have to figure that out in training mode, but that is an extra option you get after that anti-air button. Now, what should we do if we actually end up blocking his stomp, his dive kick by accident? What's the kind of situation? What's the general game plan there, dude?
That is a great question, actually. So what happens if you can't react, right? If the mental stack is just not working out, you are actually forced to block this. This is +2, and usually we don't really want to deal with anything that he does here, because this is a very big threat for getting command grabbed, right? So in general, my strategy has just been to try to backdash it and just take the damage at that point. I would rather deal with getting the damage than getting command grabbed, or even worse, getting EX command grab from this character, because it's just a bunch of damage, and you have to deal with like the aftermath as well if you're in the corner of still getting pressured by this character like nonstop, right? I mean, honestly, at some point, maybe you just actually like rip it with like an EXTP, right? You might just go out of your way and actually try to counter him by just ignoring it, or like not showing him any sign of respect, and then him having to mix up his options even on his own plus frames.
Yeah, it's a good one, because usually I think Alex players are going to let some kind of button rip, because most players are going to try to mix you up between either OD command grab or just doing like autopilot jab into quarter circle forward punch, because that's really the only way to kind of consistently stop you from backdashing or walking back out of that command grab, or trying to jump out too. So Alex players are usually going to go for those two options. I feel like most people you fight aren't going to really hold back and not push anything. I mean, it's Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, in general for this character, most of your solutions is just going to be to, if he wants to command grab you really bad, backdash is usually like your best thing to do, either in any pressure situation, like let's say for example right here, we have him go for the 236 medium like space trap right here, or try to like command grab you like during it. Usually just backdashing is fine, because taking the hit here doesn't really do much. Like off of his general hits, so let's say like his special move hits, he doesn't really get anything from it, right? Like he barely gets any damage, and just walking back and letting him come to you is the best solution that you can do in general.
I know you were mentioning that you should always be kind of like, not always, but generally speaking, you want a backdash thing. I think a lot of viewers are going to be saying, well, why can't I just neutral jump if I think he's going to command grab? Don't I get a lot of reward for that? So let's actually talk about why generally neutral jumping or back jumping is bad against this character. And I think it's going to come down to one of his special moves, his OD. It's not really a DP, but it's essentially a DP. So dude, can we show why we shouldn't be generally jumping or backdashing?
So this EXDP is incredibly strong for a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest one is that it forces hard knockdown, and you are incredibly plus in front of your opponent's face.
Exactly. For those of you who might not know, hard knockdown basically means you don't get to choose which kind of recovery option you do. So in this game, there's recovery in place and there's backwards recovery, which allows you to get into space. But on a forced hard knockdown, you have to get up in place, which means if Alex dashes forward, he's going to be +5 in your face and gets another free mix, and you're just doing like pure guessing there, just like RNG. And you don't want to be in that situation at all.
Yep. So in general, this already does a lot of damage, right? So if you actually are hitting this as a 1700, which for an EXDP or just a DP in general is not bad. You dash forward right here, and you can go for just a regular medium punch. Medium punch already does the trick right here. And if not, and they are too scared to press anything afterwards, guess what? The thing that grapplers love to get is a command grab, which we'll just get here for free because we're literally in range. And we can even try to go for something like an EX command grab, or like try to basically just threaten the opponent to go for anything like a jump again because they're now scared of it, and we can rinse and repeat the process as many times as we need.
Yeah, and then it adds up. Like the first ODDP is 1,700. The next regular command grab, if it's not OD, is 2,500. You know, the numbers don't lie.
Oh.
So it adds up after a while, so you got to watch out for those things. And that's why, generally speaking, what we're kind of advising here in this guide against Alex is to try to take lower risk, like lower reward options, because once he gets it going, you know, it's Street Fighter 6, the game is very snowbally. You don't want to let a character like this, any grappler, kind of like just loop their offense and keep on putting you into bad defensive situations because you decided to go for the high risk, high reward defensive option. So let's move on to the next topic, another move in stance that can be a little bit frustrating to deal with, stance heavy kick. Now this is a tricky one because this is kind of a knowledge check. So let's see what happens if he goes for this stance heavy kick.
As you can see right here, this has a gap. So if you have an opponent that right here wants to either mash against this or go away from it, they will get hit. Not only that, but there's also a specific animation that happens as well and more damage if it is on counter hit.
There, and this does a ton of damage, and he can also dash forward or drive rush forward for some pretty good mix options there. It leaves you close to him.
So just being able to basically drive rush here and go for like a jab afterwards, or even just walking forward and going for a command grab are two very viable options for this character here. So it's something to keep in mind. However, there is a great amount of counterplay towards it as well, because the move by itself is incredibly minus. So as you can see right here, you can get punish counter for this with a level 3. And also a bunch of other moves. The move by itself is incredibly minus, so choose basically your highest damage combo you have on your character. Very high odds you'll be able to land it against Alex. That he's going
even
to
if he stops at 1, right?
Yeah, even if he stops at 1, like, it doesn't matter. If you see the move by itself, EXDP, supers, those are usually, like, that's the one spot where you can actually do it, right? Like, if you want to mash against Alex, that's your spot, like, 100%.
Okay, let's move on to some of his other moves. So you can't think about this character, Alex, without talking about standing hard punch and standing hard kick, both the uncharged and charged versions. And if you know how to deal with these moves, it can be a lot better to deal with. This matchup becomes a lot easier. So let's take a look at standing hard punch first.
Okay, so standing hard punch, as mentioned, there's two different versions. One of them is the regular one. One of them is the regular one that you can use, which is just this version right here. It is -3 on block, and it pushes back the opponent quite far, and also drains a good amount of drive gauge, if you can look up top right here. Speaking of drive gauge, the charge version of it also does a great deal, because now it can actually be special canceled. So the move by itself can't really be special cancel or anything, but if you charge it, you're able to do anything you want. You can drive rush cancel it, you can DI, you can super, you can do whatever. The same thing goes for your pressure sequence. So right here, if you go for the standing hard punch into quarter circle forward heavy, this is all a true block string and drains almost 2 drive gauge bars. So if this hits, it does a nuclear amount of damage.
Even on this was a counter hit there on screen, but even on regular hit it goes into this, you do not want to get hit by full charged hard punch, because you're going to be taking a ton of damage. And if he has 2 bars of super, he can do OD command grab at the end. He gets over 4,000 damage. So one of your main goals in this matchup is to not get hit by standing hard punch. So
yeah,
here's the
let's
combo
actually show
right
that real quick. Almost 5,000 damage for basically just hitting one button.
It's really, really strong, so you don't want to get hit by that. And then one other thing to keep in mind with that regular standing hard punch, the regular version is not special cancelable or anything like that, so you can't do DI out of it, but it is super cancelable. So if you're trying to counter his standing hard punch by just kind of like pushing DI mid-screen, make sure it's not hitting you, because good Alex players will be buffering a level 1 behind that, which will beat your DI. However, standing hard kick is not super cancelable, right?
It's not super cancelable or special cancelable, so you can just basically you can deal with it in different ways, right? So by itself, the move is pretty good but slow, right? Like, it's 16 frames, takes a while, but it has a lot of reach. So usually when you want to even drive rush on this character, it's just gonna end up you going for this option just in general, because as you can see, you get a massive push forward right here. So even from like very far, you can build some level of pressure, or like some level of gap closing at least, so you don't have to deal with people just basically walking away from you the entire time. As for the charge version, it is actually plus. This is +2, takes 25 frames, so you could try to actually go for like jabs right here, or even go for a command grab right here.
Yeah, so then also with the charge version of standing heavy kick, don't forget that you can also transition into a stance from it.
So how do we actually counterplay this move, right? Because massive range, plus on block, you know, we don't really want to deal with this. Honestly, sometimes you just gotta go with a DI. So right here, as you can see, even though this can be canceled into stance, if you react to it properly, or like early enough, he won't be able to do anything and just get punish countered, right? So if you have an Alex just keep mashing this on you the entire time to try to like chip your drive gauge away, just go for a DI. Just go for a DI.
Exactly. Or if you can also try to perfect parry if your reactions are really good too, and you want to get like the side switch or something like that in the corner. That's also an option. But yeah, the move looks really strong, but because it's so slow, you do have a lot of time to react to it, and Alex doesn't have great defensive options to react to you if you're countering that properly. So just don't let him get away with this move. All right, everybody, so we went through some things. Now let's talk about some pressure sequences that Alex has. And while he doesn't have the greatest drive rush, there are some knockdowns that you can get in this game that can really put you in a tricky guessing situation. So we're going to show you what you should be doing against those. Let's start with his knockdown mid-screen with his most common ender, which is going to be his, well, DP, his, DP motion plus hard kick.
Okay, so real quick breakdown of this. If he gets the HDP, he is +29. This means he has a couple of options. First of all, he will get mix-ups of going for high and low options. Alex does have an overhead, which is his forward medium punch right here, as you can see. So after a knockdown like this, all he has to do is just drive rush, immediately go for it, and this will just hit without anything. This is completely auto-timed, which then also is +7, which would lead into something like stance mix right after, right? So something to be aware of. And the other thing that he has is his drive rush crouching medium kick, which is +8, which again, as you can see, like if you're getting close enough, this is also the same situation. So off of both of these things, high or low, he can get the exact same scenario. And now we get to the stuff that's a little bit fake, but obviously will work if the opponent just tries to block it, which is to just dash up and go for a light command grab. You specifically want to go for the light version here because the medium and heavy don't reach unless you go for a walk forward, which is basically more frames that you would take anyway than just going for like the light version.
And then if he scares you to not pushing buttons because he has those drive rush overheads and crouching medium kick options, he can go for drive rush like regular throw mid screen, but it's fake because if you can beat that by pushing buttons.
Yeah, so like that. Could be interrupted, but...
So essentially, you just don't want to get hit by combos, and you also don't want to be jumping a lot to give him an opportunity to anti-air you with that hard kick ender, because, or even the medium kick ender, it gives you the same knockdown. So just, again, not playing into Alex's game and trying not to get hit by that combo in the first place. Just know that if he does get that knockdown, that's his pressure options, and that's what you're going to be looking for on defense. Okay, cool. So those are his options mid-screen, but things get really scary once he gets into the corner because when he's in the corner, now he gets actual real mix where you do have to completely guess. So let's see what it looks like. So if he does the heavy DP ender in the corner and 4 dashes once, he's going to be +7 if you time it properly. So it all depends on the timing.
Properly this time. There we go.
Yes, there you see there, +7, and Alex can actually shimmy you here. He gets meaty command grab, meaty throw, meaty buttons, meaty, basically everything. +7 is really, really strong here. So there's no like actual true counterplay. This is just like any kind of like disadvantage knockdown in the corner. Just know that you do have to guess pretty hard here in this situation. I think we both wish we could give you better advice for guessing here, but it's really the answer is just guess better in this knockdown and try not to get put into the situation in the first place, which is actually pretty important in games like this. All right, so we got that, and let's talk about now the real mix anywhere on screen, the OD version of his DP.
This is where things get really scary, right? Because this is all nice and easy. You can go for like a high or low right here, but the real thing you have to watch out for is this. Because anywhere on the screen, he will just be able to dash up and be +5, which, again, if you've paid attention, command grab heaven, plus you can just press medium punch here afterwards. Or something that a couple of other Alex players like to do is even going for crouching heavy punch right here in order to actually beat the opponent for trying to like mash or anything in particular. So this can actually be used for that as well. But in general, if you get hit by this, you have to pray. Like there's honestly nothing else that you can do. You just have to pray that you guess correctly in order to not just get absolutely obliterated here.
Mm-hmm. Although I do think in this situation, eating the command grab isn't the worst thing in the world if you have the health, because all his damage options after that can get pretty chunky if he has super meter. So if you're going to have to eat something, I would say eat the command grab, because he can't pressure you mid-screen, doesn't get Oki off his command grab, even if he drive rushes at you.
Getting hit by command grab here is completely okay. Getting hit by anything that is strike will usually lead you to take like maybe double the amount of damage if he does it correctly. All
right, guys, so last but not least, we don't want to make this guide too long. Let's talk about his throw loop pressure and what kind of options he gets off of it and what you should be looking for on defense. So let's do throw mid-screen. He gets nothing, so eating a regular throw mid-screen is not the worst thing in the world. Where it gets scary is when he is in the corner, because he does have true throw loops, but he doesn't have meterless throw loops. So he's kind of like Sagat, where he has to drive rush at you.
It's just a drive rush. Drive rush throw loop is completely true. You should not try to go for like an EXTP right here, because Alex in his drive rush can just stop anything with his stance, right? So as you can see right here, he can just be stuck in place. You should not go for an EXTP attempt right here unless you have like a million range, right? But overall, I would not advise for it. I would rather try to either just hold it out or try to go for a drive reversal, as we talked about earlier.
Alright guys, so I actually labbed this one up quite a bit because I love my throw loops. I don't like getting hit by them, but I love hitting them. So Alex's throw loop is pretty scary in the corner because unlike somebody like Sagat, Alex is still plus even if he drive rushes and holds down back here. So if you see the number 2, Alex is +2, which means he can do some pretty tricky stuff. So like if he thinks you're going to like wake up DP, but he's not sure you're going to wake up DP, he can just do dash forward, And like he can like delay throw tech on his offense. This way, if you wake up with a throw, and you just block, you can get a throw. And if you wake up with a throw yourself, so something like this, he can delay throw tech you and he gains a bar. Then if you DP, of course, he gets really chunky damage. And you do not want to get hit by this with Alex in the corner. It's really bad. I'm not going to do the full combo, but trust me, it does a grip. So here, yeah, you don't want to be mashing on DP as your default option because it's really scary and he has some good options. One thing to keep in mind is how much meter Alex has when he's doing these throw loops. Because if he's right here, he's starting with 6, so if he can keep on throw looping you forever. But if he's starting the sequence with like, I don't know, 2 bars of drive gauge, he can only really throw loop you like 2 times before he runs out of meter. So eating the throw, as annoying as it is, it's kind of a good option to eat the throw there. I mean, it's kind of a meme in the game at this point, just take the throw. But really, against characters with drive rush throw loops, taking the throw is not a bad option. And then trying to just force the opponent to either just blow through all their drive gauge and stopping eventually, or just making them think a little bit more about their offense and eventually giving you a chance to get out of the corner. Alright everybody, so Alex has only been out for a couple of days. Of course the character is going to develop and there's going to be some more counter strategies as we go. But we hope that this guide is going to give you the things that you need to kind of start fighting against this character and start understanding how you should be playing a bit better. Don't forget, if you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much, dude, for coming out today. It was a lot of fun working with this, and I hope the viewers enjoyed it too.
You guys have a good one. Bye.
Alright, take it easy guys. See you in the next one. Peace.